Why the weekly podcast? So, going through my separation and my divorce, it was very difficult for me. Just being somewhere new, switching up from my life I was used to, and then transitioning into a new life, and just being away from my son, going from seeing him every day to not seeing him till every other weekend. It was real hard. And then me having conversations with family and friends, and it just really had me think about what can I do with my spare time, since I had a whole lot of time left, since my energy and time was taken away from me being away from my family. So it was just like, okay, we always having deep conversations about life, situations, friendships, and then it's like, how can I get my story out to the world? And then God led me to share my thoughts and everything I dealt with and been through and speak on it. So that's when I thought about the whole idea of the podcast. I really thought about a book first, but then I thought about more what's current now. And then that's what made me think about the podcast. So I brought it to Alicia, like after me and my friends were talking about it, and she was like, yeah, it'd be a good idea to do. So then the first thing I did was thought about, who do I know that has camera and lighting and all that. Then I thought about Bryce. So I was like, Bryce, I need to start a podcast. And he was like, all right, I'm cool with that. When you want to start? I was like, next week. Then he was like, bro, I need more time than that. I was like, well, whenever you're ready, I'm going to be ready too. So that's when I started thinking about ideas, thinking about topics, things that people want to hear, things that people need to hear. And then I just jotted down certain questions and Alicia helped me with the questions to come up with regarding the topics. And then Bryce did the film, the editing. Bryson brought his camera because I knew he had an extra one. So that helped as well. And then my mom, she helped set up the whole set. So then I was like, bam, here we go. And then the name came from just thinking about, I knew I wanted to drop an episode every week. So weekly, WEKLY, is just too regular. So I just thought about, what is the point of this podcast? Just speaking from the heart, honesty, and being vulnerable. So I thought about the word weak, because people say, well, whoever's vulnerable or you being vulnerable is a sign of weakness. So then I thought about that week, then my last name, Lee, so it all makes sense. And with the podcast, it was intended just to be a spot where I share my story through conversations with other people, and then have these little segments where I sit down and talk by myself to the camera and to you all. And then it came to figuring out who I can help going through the same thing that I'm going through, because I know there's somebody who are going through the same things that I'm going through and that people go through on a day-to-day basis. And then what it started turning into is a place where everybody could just sit down and talk and really speak their truth and tell their story from their perspective, and help everybody get a different perspective of life through different conversations, thought processes, from where another person come from, where you come from. And then we all just work to become better each and every day. And that's just what the whole weekly podcast come from. It's just a place where people come, share their story, be vulnerable, be honest about what they're saying, and just tell them the truth about who they are, where they come from, why they're the way they are, and then help us see how can we improve to become better people each and every day. And that's why I started the weekly podcast. So this would be about commitment and trust. So my ex told me, I never forget this, that I never committed to anything in my life. And she was just like talking about my whole life and everything I've been through leading all the way up to her, right? And then it had me think about why don't people commit to things? And I really believe that people don't commit to things because of they're not confident in it. When you are confident in something, it's easy for you to commit to it. Like, say for instance, basketball, right? Basketball is something that I wasn't committed to because I lost all my confidence in it. Like, yes, I was a good basketball player. Yes, I could have been great. But once I went from leaving Atlanta to coming to Covington, going from playing shooting guard to playing center, like I'm just 6'2", like I'm not a center. That really took my whole mental out of me playing basketball. And it really didn't come back until I got to college and was just playing around. But once I dropped out because I didn't have the drive to really focus on basketball or school period, because I wasn't playing basketball. Me getting through school was through me playing basketball, because I played basketball every high school I went to. So that was my motivation to finish school. So once that was completely gone, that had me lose all focus in school. So when I think about commitment and you just being, like I said, confident in it, is go hand in hand. And that goes with relationships as well. Like, if you don't feel like your partner is worthy, if you feel like you've been through enough with them, and then y'all been through certain trials, certain traumas that happen, it makes that person lose all the confidence in you. And a lot of people don't gain that back. You may think that you do, but you come to find out you really don't. And in my relationship before, I never was fully committed to it because of a lot of things that happened with us. I was committed to being married, but I wasn't committed to her, if that makes sense. But it was more so the fact of I was raised in a household where my parents was married for 32 years. So that's something that I knew I wanted out of my life. But me wanting that, it had me do and go just because I was ready and not really thinking about my life and what's the right way to go about that until now with me meeting Alicia. Like, my whole life and thoughts with relationships since going through my divorce and separation, it was just like, I did this completely wrong. And with me being separated for a long period of time before me and Alicia met, it had me really see the right way to go through and make it happen. So with that being said, it wasn't hard for me to commit to Alicia at all, because everything that we've been through, everything we shared, how vulnerable we was, how honest we was about our stories, where we come from, a lot of things that we did wrong, things we did that we shouldn't have did, things that we let go that we shouldn't have let go. And it made it easier for me to commit to her and not just commit to marriage. So I know there's a lot of women that be wondering, why don't they partner commit to them? Men, well, it goes back to the first thing I said, confidence. Yo, dude may not be confident in you anymore. Something may happen while y'all was together and he probably didn't voice it, didn't speak on it. He kept it to himself. And, you know, when we keep things to ourselves, it's not good. We end up exploding at some point or another. And he just trying to figure out how to still forgive you and keep looking past it. But for some reason, he maybe can't. Like, yes, he love you. Yeah, he may want to be with you. But at the end of the day, whatever happened, it's stuck to him. And he feels like he's in survival mode. But at the same time, that's not fair to you. And it's also not fair to him. But he's scared to be honest with you about that for y'all to be able to move on. But everything is simple as a conversation. So with that, I want to move on to trust, right? Do we really listen to people that we don't trust? I don't think so. Like, say for instance, you're a woman and you asking your boyfriend, husband, fiance, whatever. You ask him something and he gives you an answer, right? But then after he give you the answer, you call your dad and ask your dad the same thing. And your dad probably will give you the exact same answer he gave you. So why did you call and ask your dad? Because you don't trust who you with? It's a possibility. It's just small things like that that have you think about why you questioning people. Because me personally, if you asking me something and I give you an answer, but you go ask somebody else, don't ask me again. Because what's the point you asking me? You could have just left it upon yourself. But that's what we do as people. We don't trust and we talk to certain people based off of how we feel. And that's why certain friends, we don't trust certain friends. We only bring certain things to them because we may feel judged. We may feel like they may say something that's out of line. They may say something that you need to hear. A lot of people don't want to hear what they need to hear. But at the same time, those are the people you want around you. People that hold you accountable. People who tell you about yourself. People who show you love in a hard way for you to become a better person. And a lot of people don't do that. But a lot of people want that. And it makes no sense to me. Because it's like, why is it that as people, we want love, but we don't know how to give it because of how we are? Like, say for instance, if you know you're a person that's a liar, but you want a person that's not, you want a person that's going to tell you everything. You want a person that's going to be vulnerable with you. But at the end of the day, you know that you're hiding things and you are lying. You're going to automatically think that that person is doing it. Now, you could be doing it because of past relationships, past traumas. You don't know whatever you didn't heal from previous relationships. That's why it's important to heal before you look to move forward with somebody else. And you can't go into another situation thinking that everybody's the same. And like I said, you can't be lying and respect the truth out of somebody else, because at the end of the day, you setting yourself up for failure. The relationship will not last, period. Because if you're not completely honest from day one about who you are, where you're going, what you're looking for, what you want, over time, that person will start learning you in different ways just by them constantly spending time with you and having conversations with other people around you that know you. Over time, people are going to start catching on to your lies, because the truth always comes out in one form or another. And you can't expect a relationship to work when you sitting there lying, trying to manipulate a person to be with them. That's like you basically forcing them to be with you instead of you being honest and letting that person be with you because they're falling in love with that hurt, trauma, broken down person that you are. And then y'all help each other heal. But you got to be honest about it, vulnerable. And a lot of people not trying to do that. But relationships don't work if you're not. And like I said, that's why dealing with a relationship has been so easy for me, because I've been completely honest with her and I know she's been completely honest with me. And with that, I'm moving so more peaceful now. It's like, it's easy. Like, this situation has taught me so much about me, so much about my life. And that's why I'm so thankful and grateful that I did get married and went through what I went through, because it set me up for me to have a better life. Yes, it didn't work out how I thought it did, but at the same time, it was a great lesson that I had to learn. And I'm blessed that I learned it. And another thing about people being vulnerable in relationships, you can't be a person that's thinking people are gonna act with you just because of how you are. Because like I said, if you a person that lie, you can't automatically think or assume that that person who you're starting this new situation, relationship with, that they're gonna just up and be just like you. It's not fair. Like, that's people you already setting it up for y'all to not work, but you don't want to accept it or believe it because you want to try to make something happen and lie for you to get what you want.
But that's not fair. And that's the biggest thing about life, being honest. And once we really get to a point, like the older you get, you really start realizing that. That's why older people are so brutally honest. Because at the end of the day, what's gonna go wrong if I tell you the truth? Nothing. What people always say, I'd rather you tell me the truth than to lie to me. And that's the truth. Because if you tell me the truth, I got you. If you don't, I can't help you. That's why that trust level be gone. And trust is something that is hard to keep. It's easy to get, but as soon as you lose it, it's over for you. And that's why you always gotta stay honest and vulnerable with every person in your life, family, friends. That's just like my parents, for instance. I couldn't get upset with them because they feel like I possibly rushed something too fast, right? Because with that being said, I wasn't honest with them about when I was taking things slow. And the longer I was taking things slow was because it wasn't right. When a lot of times when we take our time with things, it be because a lot of situations happen and we know it's not right, but we're trying to convince ourselves that at one moment, at some point, this is gonna work. That's why we take our time with things. But when things is happen quick, when it's really right, that's why people look at you crazy, like, oh yeah, you moving too fast. Like, no, you're not. You moving right because you know it is right. But when it's wrong, you sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting for it to get better. But that's the whole moving on potential. And a lot of times that potential don't come up. But that's why always remain honest, vulnerable. And this is the weekly podcast. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tune in next week.